What if I told you that right now in your business, there was a simple behavior change that could speed up execution and production of everything going on in your fitness business? That's what today's episode is all about, is how to utilize speed in your business to get more done, produce better results, and outwork the competitors. Now, here's the thing. As a small business, which if you're listening, you are either in charge of or a part of a small business, the greatest competitive advantage that you have is your speed and agility. You're not a part of some massive corporation, I assume, that has to go through all kinds of bureaucracy and red tape to make any sort of decision or move things along. And that is a critical element of being in a small fitness business or a small business. So what am I talking about? What is this behavior change that can speed up your business? Dare I say even double the speed and execution of your business? It is a concept that comes from an old Harvard Business Review article called Management Time, Who's Got the Monkey? And there's another book that was written by Ken Blanchard that was based on this concept. But essentially the concept is we all carry these, what they consider monkeys in our jobs. They are the tasks and the roles and responsibilities that we fulfill, or the tasks that we are responsible for. Okay, so if you're in sales or if you're a revenue driving member of your business, the monkey is the decisions that need to be made on the offer that you're going to run. If you're in marketing, the monkey might be the strategic decisions on the offer you're going to run, or the creative that you're going to run, or getting content from people. Those are the monkeys that you carry, that is your responsibility to take care of. So how does this show up is where businesses run into slowdowns or bottlenecks is when we leave our monkeys, the things that we are solely responsible for taking care of and executing on, under the care of somebody else in the business. So now we cannot do our job until the other person that we hand it off to gets us back a response or gives us a deliverable or something. So I want to show you how you can bypass this bottleneck, keep the monkey on your shoulders, and be able to do your job faster and more effectively than ever. All right, so let me start with a practical example. And this is a real example from my business. So I am kind of the creative, the figurehead of a lot of our marketing. I do all of our ad videos. I approve a lot of our marketing content, our email content. So my poor marketing director is at the mercy of my schedule. And I am a self-proclaimed hey, let me think about it and get back to you guy, right? That's my natural thing, is if somebody gets tossed my way, my first instinct is to be like, all right, cool, let me process this on my timeline, get back to you. Now, I'm also not the most organized, and follow through has never been my greatest attribute. It's just, I'm being honest. So I end up being the bottleneck for my marketing director being able to make decisions and move things forward, because she's constantly waiting on me to make decisions or provide deliverables like the new ad video or the ad copy or the emails that need to be written. So that is an example of monkey management. She's got this responsibility to deliver on our marketing, but she puts it in my hands, and now she cannot do her job until I get her back the things that she needs to do. So how do we speed up this process? How do we avoid the bottleneck in business? I'm going to address it from a few different angles. I'm going to address it from what you should be doing yourself for your own responsibilities, what you should be talking to your team about and training your team on. And I want to talk, so that's kind of the leadership lens. And then I want to talk about it from the lens of just, in probably the sales and marketing aspect of how to just execute more efficiently when you're dealing with clients, and the things that you leave in clients' hands and on their timeline. So let's think about it from the lens of you and how you can understand this concept and make sure that you don't become the bottleneck. All right. So if you have decisions to make that involve other people. Like maybe you've got trainers that you want to run things by, or you've got an integrator like myself that you want to talk to. You've got to understand like the nature of communication flow, and you don't want to have like one-way communication, because that in itself is going to cause monkey management to happen, right? Essentially, if you need a decision or need to rope somebody in on something, and you send a Slack message or you send an email, you are now waiting for their response. Now, if they're super on top of stuff, like if you say, hey, we want to do this thing, tell me what you think about it. Now, again, you're waiting for their response. You cannot do your job until they get you back a response. So that's one thing, is understanding the flow of communication. Always opt for communication that is in a controlled environment. So that's either a phone call or an in-person meeting. And what's an important discipline in that is making sure that that phone call or that in-person meeting does not leave with a monkey on the other person's shoulders. So you commit to coming to a decision in that conversation period, okay? So that's number one, is making sure you are disciplined. And if I need something, I'm gonna call the person, or I'm gonna set a meeting, and I'm gonna make sure that they do not leave with anything that I am now waiting for them on, okay? So number two is, if you do need to stick to that one lane of communication, like you do have to send an email or you do have to send a Slack message, make sure that you bring the complete idea, and all you're asking is for a determined timeline of execution. So again, if I've got something that I need to send to my integrator and I need to wait for a response from him, I am gonna come with the exact plan that I wanna execute on. So if I say, hey, we're gonna run this challenge, this is what I want it to be. In 24 hours, this is what I'm gonna do. If you disagree, I need you to respond within 24 hours, and we will set up a meeting to discuss it and come up with a better solution. But if I don't hear from you, then I am going to do X, okay? So again, this would show up in like if you need approval or if you need an editor to edit something. It's like, I am publishing this thing on this day or day and time. I'm gonna send it to you for approval, but if I don't get it back by this date, it is going to be published, all right? So now you've created a container for, I am executing on this thing. Unless you have like some crazy objection to it, I am controlling my execution flow, all right? So that's how, a few ways that you can control monkey management. And now let's talk about how you can have your employees understand this concept. And some of this has to do with what you're doing as well. But essentially, you need to teach your team this concept. You need to help them understand not to leave responsibilities in any other person's hands or timeline. A lot of times, that means accepting responsibility for what you are doing as a leader. So I know, again, my bias, my natural instinct is when somebody asks me a question, I will take it from them or make the decision or say like, let me think about it and get back to you. And that becomes the bottleneck. So again, if my marketing director says, hey, we're gonna launch this campaign, can you send me a couple emails about it? Now she can't do anything until I get her those emails. Now she can't make decisions unless I make the final call on it. So there's two things that we can do here. Number one is, as a leader, I can say, I trust you. You do not need my decision on this. Just make the decision that you feel is best. Again, depending on where the employee is and how good they are at their job and their experience, that could be the easiest solution, is just don't take those things and just say, I trust you, you can do this, and just make sure it gets done. Number two is make sure that they don't drop stuff on you and that you can't handle in a reasonable timeline, and make sure you close the communication loop. So again, I'm just going to use the example of marketing. So if my marketing person says like, hey, we want to do this, what are your thoughts? I would challenge them to say, tell me your complete idea and I will give you my answer for it. If you don't hear back from me, like, just go with it. All right. So come up with exactly the plan that you want to run with. And if I have some objection, I will object within 24 hours, and then we'll set up a meeting to do that. And that's how we can control that flow of execution. Okay. So you do need to teach your team this, and it is a constant, not only a reminder to them, but because this is something where they're going to have to kind of lead upwards to you. It takes some leadership ability on their part to say, hey, Devin, I need this decision. I want to get on the phone with you so we can come to a decision on this, versus just sending emails and Slack messages and putting these things in my plate or somebody else's plate. So another way that this shows up is in like the meetings after the meetings after the meetings. If you're in a meeting and you're discussing something, and everyone in the meeting is like, all right, let's set up another meeting to like come up with a solution on this. Making sure that like you're not just kicking the can for weeks and weeks at a time. I mean, one of the things that slowed us down a lot has been we have a weekly leadership team meeting, and we'll kind of be like, all right, like we're going to work on this thing. I want you to go out and work on a proposal for this, bring it to next week's meeting, and we can talk about it there. Now, why does this slow things down? Is because when decisions need to get made, now we're 2 weeks into this decision timeline without a decision being made. We're just talking about bring the solution to next week's meeting. So again, you want a clarity on what decision needs to be made in a meeting. You want an exact timeline for when you want this to be done, and you want to empower anybody that's responsible for that monkey, for that decision, to own the complete cycle of it. So if you do need to wait for it, like if you do need some approvals and you do need to run through some filters, make sure that like whoever is in charge of the project management is owning like, all right, you're going to create a proposal for our next challenge in the gym. By next week, you are going to have talked to everybody that you need to talk to. You're going to have all the meetings that you need to meet. You're going to present on the solution, and we will execute on it there. So that means that it's not just like they're going to work on it themselves. Next week, they're going to propose something that other people disagree with. They're going to have done all of that in that meeting, and it's going to be ready to go by the next one. So it doesn't cause like week after week of just kicking the can on stuff. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to monkey management is in just your regular tasks that involve other people outside of the company. So that was the first part, was kind of based around you as a leader and working with other employees. That's kind of the traditional sense of monkey management. But there's another really big part of it, which is you're dealing with clients, right? You're dealing with clients that have to make decisions that hold up your ability to do your job. So the prime example here is, let's say a client comes in, they love the gym, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to sign up. You send them a membership agreement and all the whatever you do, and now you're just sitting on your hands waiting for that agreement to come back. And you report to your boss, like I get it from my people, and it's like, yeah, I've got 6 agreements that are out waiting to be signed. Or, hey, I sent a bunch of upgrade offers to people and I haven't heard anything back. So now that employee is not able to do their job, to execute on what they need to execute, to hit their numbers, because the responsibility, the next action is in somebody else's hands and in their timeline. So you have to, one, try to maximize the in-person, moments as much as possible. Like never leave an engagement without a really concrete action as much as possible. So if somebody comes in for a trial, get them to sign the agreement on the spot, right? If you do a phone sale and you have to send somebody a waiver and an agreement or whatever before coming in, try to get them to do it on the phone. And you could just say like, hey, like, while I have you, I'll send it to you. Sometimes the tech breaks. I want to make sure it works for you. Like, can you just do that for me real quick? Again, that's the way you can communicate with clients on like closing that communication loop like that. Number 2 is always biased towards a phone follow-up, all right? Or a scheduled follow-up. So, we're in a campaign right now where we're sending a bunch of like membership upgrades because we want to upgrade our, average revenue per member a little bit. So we're giving free upgrades and hoping people convert. And, we sent a bunch of them out. And it's like we sent 20 members upgrade offers and we haven't heard back. So it's like, well, what do I do? I can't do my job until they respond. Well, the answer is let's call the person. Let's make an effort to get them on the phone and say, hey, Sally, listen, I sent you the upgrade. I just want to clean stuff up on my end. Where are we at with that? I want to know if you want to redeem that. Oh, you do? Awesome. So here's how it's going to work. I'll set this up for you. It's going to go live on this date. Does that sound good? Awesome. And then in 2 weeks, I'll reach out to you and we'll see if this is something you might want to do going forward. That's how you own the communication flow and make sure that you can do your job when it comes to dealing with clients. Now, if you can't get them on the phone or they can't make a decision on the phone, then you would just do, I think Hermosi calls it a BAM fam, book a meeting from a meeting. And all that means is you're gonna say, hey, Sally, I sent you this upgrade thing. I wanna know if you wanna do it. And if Sally's like, yeah, I don't know, like I got a lot going on, let me think about it. You're like, okay, cool. Listen, I wanna make sure that things don't slip through the cracks or I get this done on my end. How long do you think you wanna think about it for? 2 days? Okay. Do you mind if I call you on Wednesday at 4 p.m. and we can close the loop on this? Right? That's a really professional term, close the loop on this. So that's how you can confirm like that communication flow. Now listen, it's not gonna be perfect. Are there people that are gonna like bullshit you and not answer the phone and do that follow-up? Yeah, but that's when you can come back with like an expiration. So at least, at the very least, you can say, you can move on yourself. So that would just sound like, hey, I sent you this offer. I need to know within 2 days if you're gonna accept this or else I have to give it to somebody else. Here's what I'm gonna do. If I don't hear back from you in 48 hours, I'm gonna assume that means it's a no and I'm gonna offer this to somebody else. Does that sound fair? Again, if it's an email, that's kind of the best you can do. I would bias towards a phone call, but all of this is to say, no matter what your role is, if you're in a leadership position, if you have employees that are sending you stuff to do, this concept of monkey management will speed up your business 10x. It'll allow everybody to be empowered to do more in their roles and not have to report or get answers for every single little thing. And if everyone owns this discipline of not leaving monkeys on each other's backs, but also not accepting other people's monkeys, your business is gonna move way, way faster. And if you have things that are client facing, the better you can be at owning the communication flow and not leaving things open-ended with people, the faster you can grow and sell more memberships and get more done. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, drop a comment and don't forget to like and follow.